All right, we are back, and there's a good chance I'm not going to do any narration for this part because this is kind of the end of the game. But yes, after much time, I have finally reached level 34, which means I can finally see the House Cup, the quote-unquote actual ending. Officially back from Japan, so it's nice to be back in the studio because it's been very interesting trying to record on the go, so to speak. So it's very nice to sort of be back. Yeah, after this, I'll be giving some final thoughts as well. So this is kind of ending final thoughts video. You'll see what I mean. Oh, we're taking our owls. All right, so this is our montage of us successfully taking our owls, I think. Do I get to see myself in any of this? Oh, my friends. Okay, so I guess we're going in. Gonna have to find out how we did. Did we win? Whose money is on the Gryffindor didn't win because I'm part of Gryffindor, but we're going to give them bonus points so that they win. Woohoo! Yeah!
The ambition of Salazar Slytherin.
No cheers.
The winner of this year's House Cup.
Excuse me, Headmaster, if I may. One particular student's heroism during
That's right.
the attack on Hogwarts.
I'm just the best.
Not to
I'm the
mention
greatest
the
that ever
levels
did
at
it.
which they have excelled in their coursework as a new student, no less.
I'm just the greatest who ever did it.
Well, it would seem that it certainly merits, I'd say,
Just enough points to win.
100 points to their house. Wouldn't you agree?
Ah, yes. Thank you, Professor Weasley. I suppose
So-
we have our winner.
It's Gryffindor. Oh, they don't actually... Look at me, I'm the spiffiest student here. Ululating? Ululating? What is that word? Ululating. I don't know what that word is. I've never seen that. Ululating? Ululating. Ulating? Ulating? I'm just gonna stop. All right, so that was everything that we had to do. So awesome. We'll leave it here, and we'll cut to Justin, who is going to be providing us with final thoughts. It's still me. There's no one else. I'm acting like I've got a bigger production than I do. I'll be back. And that's Hogwarts Legacy. Overall, I'm really impressed with what they've done here. I was pretty... Yeah, impressed is the right word because I had some concerns going into it just based on the studio and sort of what they'd done before. But they've really taken a lot of care in the way the world's been developed, and they've successfully, in my opinion, transported you into the Wizarding World, which is pretty much what I really wanted from this game. There is a lot you are able to do in this game, and you feel like you really can craft your witch or wizard at Hogwarts. It's really, really cool. If you are really interested in beasts and you want to go rescue them all, you can go and do that, and you can deck out the vivarium where you keep them all, and you can just spend so much time just doing that. And there's, I think, a shiny system. I didn't confirm that, but I saw certain ones with like a special little icon next to them that are like rare or something, so you can literally go just hunting for those, basically play a little Pokemon if you want to. And there is just oodles of stuff to do. Like, obviously you have the main story. There are more curated side quests, I would say, in the sense of having a quest and a character that's at the center of it. So you had like Sebastian, Natty, and somebody else that I do not remember. I think it was Poppy Sweeting. But yeah, you've got those ones which are very curated and very much a story, ongoing series of side quests. And then you have a lot of fluff as well. So you've got like, go get me this, take that over there, kill the group of enemies here and rescue someone. But then you do also have just random puzzles and things. And puzzles done well in the sense of there's no, oh, this is exactly how you solve this type of puzzle. You kind of just stumble on like, what's this door? The one that comes to mind for the first time for me was the math door, where like you've got like a door, you reveal it, there's like a math equation and all these symbols around it, and trying to figure out how that all works. Unless you look up a guide, there's no real indication of what to do. You kind of have to just sort of figure it out, which I think is really cool and lends itself to the idea that Hogwarts is full of mystery and weird things that nobody knows or understands. Another really big surprise to me was actually how fun combat was, which I didn't really think of a system. I mean, I played some of the old Harry Potter games, and especially the ones towards the end, like the Deathly Hallows ones, it kind of felt like Call of Duty Wizard Edition, where you're just like holding down a button and spells are just firing off and you're ducking behind cover. But the way they managed to put that combat system together was excellent, and I can't think of a better way to have done combat for a Harry Potter game or a Wizarding World game, however you want to refer to that. Just the way you learn the spells and how you intersperse them in combat. So you've obviously got your basic attacks, which you can just spam as much as you need to, and then you have got the different types of spells. So ones that levitate, ones that push people, send them flying into the ground, freeze them, and the way you can combo these things together, like there is nothing more satisfying than getting into combat with an enemy, and before they've barely drawn their wand, you've already lifted them up, comboed them into oblivion, and they're done. Like, it's very satisfying, especially when you get the hang of it. For me, it took me a little bit, but once I got the hang of it, it was so much fun and very rewarding when you successfully did one of those combos right. And really what I feel they nailed is, and where maybe the focus was or the intent with it, was to transport you to the Wizarding World and give you the experience of attending Hogwarts and being there and going on some sort of story, but you're also learning spells and you're investigating and you're discovering all these magical and wonderful things, because the experience is really good. I say this because when it comes to some of the other things, such as the main story, if you're expecting some sort of emotional tour de force, just big moments, characters that you care about and you're distraught about when things happen to them, and twists and turns and rewarding plot points, don't expect that. It's a very standard ho-hum, I'm the chosen one sort of affair where
You and only you have the special ability to do this special thing that will be the reason you can stop the big catastrophe.
yeah, that's basically what the plot is. Like, obviously there's characters and things that happen within the plot itself, but that's it. That's the plot. So main story, or those who really love to dig into a story, which usually I am, and I'll get to that, you're not going to really find that here. It's not a very rewarding story. It's very by the numbers chosen one, as I sort of said. Now, kind of segueing off from the story, I'll kind of lead into some of the things that didn't do super well, and then I'll get into probably some of the worst parts for me, because this game was really, really good, but it didn't not have its flaws. Dialogue choices, although you're presented with them throughout the main story and side quests, they really don't change anything. I did test this with reloading certain sections just to see if I picked something completely different or that sounded so different, like, oh, what happens if I say that? Nothing really happened. Maybe there's an extra comment the person makes, but everything else sort of still plays out the same. And really, it's kind of a very black and white sort of system. There's not too much variation. It's either you sound like the best, goodest, kindest person to ever exist, or you kind of sound like a snarky, sarcastic teen or something like that. That's your two options really when it comes to dialogue, so it's not very impactful, and that's not always a bad thing. I guess I would prefer just not having the illusion of choice, because sometimes some of the dialogue things can make you feel like maybe you've got a choice when you really don't. It's all going to end up the same. This one might be a little bit more of a nitpick, but I do feel that since what they really, again, that's my belief, that's my opinion, I don't know if this is the case, but based on what this game gets right, I do believe that their intent was to give you the experience, and that was sort of the main focus, is getting that experience so right. And I guess my nitpick on that is that the game sort of drops the school part of Hogwarts really hard about halfway through. I would have liked to see that be a little bit more included, especially through the later half, because I do feel I didn't notice some of the genericness of the plot. I wasn't so focused on that as much when it was the first half of the game and you were kind of interspersed with like doing the main plot, and then you've got school stuff to do, and then you do the main plot, and then you do something with a classmate. And I guess you can do some of the side quests, but the school part, kind of the reason you're at Hogwarts, I would have liked a way to see that integrated more. But I do always look to something like the Persona series, where they do a really good job of, even if nothing specifically unique sort of happens, you do get a sense of like, you know, you may just kind of have time pass while you're sitting in the classroom, and then you'll be able to go about and do your day. I do like that even if you don't interact with the school aspects every single time, it does feel like time's still passing and you are still attending classes. A little bit of a nitpick, but I do feel like something more, just so it doesn't feel like just halfway through the game, school just doesn't matter anymore. But that's just, again, a little nitpick. The other thing I would probably criticize a bit is just unimaginative sort of boss designs. There's not a wide variety of enemies in the game, not significantly enough anyway, and I understand there's only so much you can really do, so that's not really my issue. My main issue kind of comes in the form of the enemies that would just negate half your abilities, so they can't be levitated, they can't be pulled, and it just essentially leaves you just spamming them with every high damage spell that you've got. Most of these will have some special trick So in the case of a troll, for example, you can block a boulder that it throws at you and you can hurl that back with ancient magic, or you can, when it comes down with a big overhead strike with its club, you can flip that back into its face. But essentially it just means you're kind of spamming high damage spells and then just waiting for it to do the thing so you can do a little bit of extra damage, which it really doesn't do all that much extra damage. And it really, I feel, is a disservice, some of these fights, to what I believe is a really great combat system. That it removes all the tactical parts of it and just leaves you spamming damage. And that kind of sucks because it is really good and you get really good at this system by the end of the game. You are pulling off combos that you didn't even dream you'd be doing at the beginning of the game, and to run up against enemies that just kind of make all of that not matter. And it's not even for really good reasons, like especially there's a poacher type called an executioner, which is just a bigger muscly dude. It's not like he's got some special magical resistance, he's just muscly, so I guess if you have enough muscle, spells don't matter. And that's going to lead me into probably the last point I've got, which is a bit of a spoiler. So if you want to get to like where I talk about the my final sort of rating, which I've actually got 2 different scores in mind and it's going to vary. Anyway, you'll see what I mean. But this is a spoiler, heavy spoiler, end of the game spoiler. But I am going to talk about the final boss in the game and why I think it was absolute dog shit. So, Ranrock, the big bad you have been eyeing down. This is the guy you gotta stop, the goblin mastermind who has been just getting ready to wreck your day, is probably the worst fight I've done in this entire game, and probably one of the most anticlimactic sort of final boss battles I've had in a game for a very long time. So this kind of builds on the last point I said, where, you know, you'll run into certain enemies that just basically negate any of the strategy from your spell arsenal, and you're just left spamming as many heavy attacks and just heavy damage dealing attacks as you possibly can and waiting for them to do a thing so you can do it. This fight is that on steroids. He turns into a big energy dragon and you go through like 4 phases of combat with him as this energy dragon. And it's all the same thing. You kind of have to use particular spells to get down a shield that he's got on, and then you can kind of do some damage, but the only real damage you can do is when you can use ancient magic. Everything else is kind of, you're hitting him with BB bullets at this point. You're not really doing anything. And you just do that for like 4 phases of this fight. And it was really disappointing. But I was kind of hoping, okay, we get him out of this dragon form and then we're gonna have this big kind of fight, and we're gonna have like, you know, I'm gonna have this big epic one-on-one duel. And no, you defeat him in the dragon form, then the game just sort of wraps up real abruptly. Like, so you have defeated Ranrock and the whole cabin that you're in is falling down, and you quickly do a little reparo thing with ancient magic and restore it and capture all the bad ancient magic. And then it kind of just cuts to the funeral for Professor Fig, and that's sort of it. And the game just kind of ends real quick, and it was just a bit disappointing. I really would have liked to see, you know, you could still have the dragon, but maybe once, you know, he's kind of down to half health, he gets knocked out of that and goes into normal Ranrock, and he's this crazy magic user that tests everything you've learned in the game about your spells to the max. And that would have just been so cool, because this teaches you a really cool set of tools, and then in the final fight goes, yeah, those don't matter though. Doesn't matter. And I guess, you know, thematically in the sense of, oh, well, you're the chosen one and only you can do it because you've got this ancient magic. So if you want to kind of go with that theme, and I guess that can make sense. You can only really do damage to him if you're using ancient magic. But as much as I guess in the story they've got that makes sense, in terms of fun, it's just not. I don't know how they may want to handle that story-wise, but I think the way it was done, it just wasn't that fun. Like, you could have a system. I may cut this. I don't even know if I'm going to keep this in. I'm ranting now because it was really upsetting. You could have a system where he gets up a shield and only an ancient magic blast or an ancient magic attack can knock that shield down. When you're kind of in that dueling phase I was talking about, if you could have that, that's still a way to keep it thematically correct and would be way more fun. Comboing spells, and one mistake leads to you getting comboed, and it could have just been way better than it was. It definitely ended on a whimper and not a bang. And that's all my final thoughts for Hogwarts Legacy. Now, I've kind of had a good think about this, and even with the problems, I've kind of got to, I want to kind of factor in that I do believe with this game, the intent was to give you the experience of being at Hogwarts as a witch or wizard, and to that, it really nailed that. From every aspect of the world and how carefully it was designed, the puzzles and the things you could do, there's so many things to do. And so I really feel like I have to kind of keep that in mind and kind of say like, okay, if what you have been waiting for is the experience of going to Hogwarts and you wanted that game that lets you create your person that goes to Hogwarts, this is going to do that for you. And so I'd sit it at a solid, if you're just looking for that experience, I'm going to give it a solid 9. A solid 9 out of 10 if you are looking for just, that's what I've been craving. I wanted to go there, I wanted to grow my plants, I wanted to brew my potions, I want to learn all the spells, I want to discover secrets, I want to just be in Hogwarts and be there and look around and go to Hogsmeade. It's got that in spades, and there's plenty of entertaining things to do. If a really good story is important to you, like if it's really, really important, I'd sit it at around a 6. The experience is still cool, but you're definitely going to notice how just kind of average that story is. But if you're a fan of Harry Potter, maybe it'll knock it up a point or 2 for you. That's where I'd kind of set the baseline. If all you've wanted is that experience and you don't care if the story is not a big deal, 9 out of 10. If you do care about story and that is a massive deal for you, I'm going to say 6 out of 10 because the game is still super solid in what it does, but the story is so average. You definitely feel that. Especially once they drop all the school stuff and all of your main quests are now just this main story. So that was my final thoughts on Hogwarts Legacy. Let me know what you thought below. If you've played it, if you've watched my playthrough, what you think. Do you agree? Do you have different perspectives? I like to hear it all because obviously this is just me talking about my opinion on this. So I only have my viewpoint in the way I experience the game. So I like seeing what other people think as well. Maybe give me other things to think about that I didn't see. But as always, subscribe if you enjoy what I do. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. It does help out a bunch. But that's all for today. So bye for now.